The hackathon for me is really interesting because basically that's what we're trying to do with the large data that we have access to, whether it's electronic health records, whether it's big genotyping data sets, whether it is behavioral data sets that are out there. We still don't have a great predictor of who will respond to which particular treatment. And so being able to use machine learning strategies in an unbiased manner, because everything that's really done now is in a way biased. We know this dose range that's been effective for X percentage of people, but it's not perfect for everyone. Can we start using machine learning, artificial intelligence, to hack all of these data sets that we have to give better predictors? And that to me is a key, and I'd love for that to be an aspect of the hackathon.
What we're doing now, for a reason, is if we could predict suicidal behavior, that would be, of enormous societal and individual importance. So let's start there, because that's something we all want to prevent. And then, you can have many more, recurrence of psychosis, recurrence of depression, but if there's a single thing, if we can, predict suicidal behavior on the basis of digital data, that would be a breakthrough.
I think it's bridging the gap between once physical therapy ends and what do you do after that, okay? The usual answer is a home exercise program, which we know that there's, compliance is not that great, right? So how do we do that? Is it with trainers? Is it with apps? Is it with ways to keep our patients accountable, reminders, chatbots? Not sure, okay? But I think those that's one of the biggest areas here for looking to bridge a gap anywhere.
So I do a lot already on the treatment side of things because I work in the hospital. So the prevention side is the one I probably would take up if I had the luxury of working in this hackathon. And I would really like to see why people, when they are given the information about their need for exercise or need for caloric restriction, why they are not doing that, gathering information of what is the barrier, and then modeling what kind of people could be improved and what kind of people cannot be, distinguishing between them, which will be a classification problem, would be my interest in solving through hackathon.
So what I would do is just focus on a problem. Yeah. And again, the good thing about healthcare, we have so many problems that need to be solved, and very challenging problems, of course. So focus on one part of a problem, whether that's in diagnostic, whether it's in response to therapy, whether it's a hospital operation, bed utilization, how do I utilize my beds in the hospital? That's a problem. So, a lot of people talk about research problems, but there are opportunities for AI, for example, in hospital operation. Like, can I build a data set, for example, to link my data set to the weather and link my data set to other type of data set to predict hospital capacity on this day, and how can I optimize the capacity, how many nurses I need this floor, how I deploy my forces in the hospital to make the hospital more efficient and less cost.
So the most important question I would want to have solved is all of this technology even worth it, or is it working? So we've invested a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of resources to learning how to utilize this technology, see where we can make it work in our workflow, and we use it regularly on a lot of patients, and we feel that it's working. But what I'd like to have answered is it actually making a difference, a statistically significant change?
I think one thing we can do, like for a small project, is kind of still based on imaging point of view. So because we have already tons of image available now, so how to better analyze or classify them is a open question. So maybe one possible hackathon project is, okay, we provide some existing database, and then we have some specific tasks. Say, okay, we want to classify the normal and abnormal or different level of abnormals, kind of classification problem. This will be very doable within 2 to 3 days. kind of you have a very, very clear like object and then problem, and then you have a data set, and then they just try to figure out a better way how to understand the question and then implement the algorithm to do the classification. Yeah.
I have always wanted to solve the problem of creating cheaper, more portable, smaller, more accessible diagnostic tools. And I'm an imaging person, so I would be interested in learning more about imaging tools in this context. And I think that when you miniaturize or reduce the power, if you will, of any of these tools that require transmission of signal and also receiving signals, you're working with less data and you're working with just the minimal amount of data. And I think learning from previous imaging work or diagnosis work we've done in humans from a larger scale data set could help improve the use of these devices.
What I would suggest is to grab some genomics data, and a lot of the genomics data that we have and a lot of the risk prediction algorithms we have, risk prediction data that we have are on European Americans. But we are at Mount Sinai, we're right on Harlem, so what I would suggest is take this data and then take the genome of individuals that are of African American descent and look at those individuals' data and see what risk variants they have for cancer that we have already identified in Europeans, and see what is the frequency of these known mutations in African American population. I think that would be a really exciting project.